So many choices, it's tough to stay with one. Got way too many options, just to have some fun. You can listen to the others, but they might not understand. Just put yourself in your shoes, it's time to take a stand. And you can make it happen. It won't be very hard. You just got to realize that you can go so far. Just start your day right here. We'll get you up and get you going. Start your day right here. We'll get you up and get you going right here. Life is a challenge, some days are just too much. So many things to manage when you're feeling out of touch. We can make it better, just turn around and see. No matter what the weather, be the best that you can be. And you can make it happen. It won't be very hard. You just got to realize that you can go so far. Just start your day right here. We'll get you up and get you going. Start your day right here. We'll get you up and get you going. Start your day right here. We'll get you up and get you going. Start your day right here. We'll get you up and get you going right here. Start your day right here. We'll get you up and get you going. Start your day right here. We'll get you up and get you going right here.
Great, go ahead. Thank you, Mary. I'm glad you could make it. Let's get started.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I'm Mary Barke, and I apologize for the few-minute delay here. I was actually driving through the Rocky Mountains under a police escort. Had no idea. Anyway, I'm Mary Barke. I'm a trustee on the Orange County Board of Education. I also work with the Parent Union, which is part of the California Policy Center. I'm so excited to be emceeing this year. It's our 6th annual event, 6th annual Parent Union Fair, and it's our first ever virtual fair. And as a result of COVID, I think this fair is more important than ever. It's a time when parents really need to know what their choices are. So I'm so excited to start it off. We have a great list of speakers that are going to run you through all the educational opportunities available. So let's get started. Can we get started with a Pledge of Allegiance by Vanessa Gomez? Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? Let me do a few more housekeeping rules. I'm sorry. We are going to break from time to time for prizes. The best are coming at the end. All the $100 gift cards will be at the end. So please make sure you hang in the entire time. In order to be eligible for a prize, you'll want to keep track of the chat. You link into the chat, and that's how you're eligible to win at each of the prize opportunities. All participants, I'm not sure if you've been told, but you can use active speaker to view on your screen. And everyone who actually registered will get a follow-up email. So I hope that if you haven't actually registered and you're just coming on via Zoom, you'll go onto the link, which should be in the chat for you, libertyineducation.com, and that will enable us to send you a follow-up email, and you'll have access to the recording. So enjoy. Please post your questions in the chat, and I will be back with you right after Vanessa Gomez does a beautiful job with the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much, Vanessa. That was beautiful, just beautiful. So next up is Andrew Campanella with National School Choice Week.
Hi, everybody, and thank you so much for being here today. I want to thank all of the hosts for putting on this incredible event, which is so well attended. To thank everybody in the state of California for your commitment to opportunity in K-12 education and to school choice. Today is the last day of National School Choice Week, but every week of the year is a time when each of us can celebrate the benefits of opportunity in education. I'm not going to speak too long this morning, but what I do want to say is this, that to all of us who are on this call today, school choice does not mean that one type of school is better than all the rest for all kids. It doesn't mean that one type of school isn't doing a good enough job. It simply means that moms and dads know their children best, and they know what their children's talents, interests, challenges, and motivations are. They are the experts on their daughters and sons. And we also know that when moms and dads in California and in each state across our great country have the power to choose the schools and learning environments that do meet their kids' needs, great things happen. Doesn't matter whether you choose a traditional public school, public charter school, public magnet school, private school, online public school, or homeschooling. The simple act of going through the process and actively choosing a learning environment that meets your child's needs means your child is more likely to learn, thrive, and succeed. Every single study that has looked into parental choice in education has demonstrated the same results. Kids do better when their families are able to choose their schools. And so today, we are here to celebrate the fact that you have started schools that provide an essential choice for families in your communities. And to those of you who started schools and who teach at them, I want to congratulate you on the work that you do. Others have joined today's Zoom because you are advocates. You are advocating for the protection of the existing school choice options across California, or you are advocating for the creation of new opportunities, opening those doors of opportunity so that millions of additional California kids can walk through those doors and have a better chance at pursuing their dreams. And still others of you are joining this call today because you want to choose a school or learning environment that best meets your child's needs. And to those parents who have joined this call today, I want to share with you my, I hope, best piece of advice. And that is this: before you start thinking about schools and learning environments, think first about your child and your family. The most important thing that you can do to find a good school or learning environment is to remember, it's not about grades, it's not about test scores, it's not about rankings, it is about your child. You are the expert. You know more about your son or daughter than anybody else on this planet. And you are the most qualified person to make these decisions for your kid. So before you look at specific schools, and maybe you will do a little bit of that today, which is a good thing, but before you really consider and evaluate them, think about your goals for your child. Who do you want your daughter or son to grow up to be? What are the values that matter most to your family? What do you need and want in a school or learning environment? Those things are so crucial to helping you navigate this process of finding a school. And if you go through this process and you never forget that it is about your child and you are the expert, there is no other option but success. And so with that, I am delighted to be here today. I do have to run soon after a few questions, but I know it's going to be a fantastic event. And congratulations again to everybody who has organized this during School Choice Week 2021.
Thank you, Andrew. I'm going to get a couple questions up for you. If anybody has questions, they can put them in chat, and we can take them from there. I have one real quick here. It says, how has the pandemic impacted the need for school choice, and what resources has National School Choice Week provided to help parents?
Well, that's such a great question. The pandemic has absolutely upended K-12 education as we know it, and I have never seen more parent interest and demand for school choice in the 15 years that I've been working in education than I do right now. And it's happening for a few reasons. Families before the pandemic wanted and enjoyed having options. Now with the pandemic and the switch to emergency remote learning in many cases, which is completely different from full-time online schooling, a lot of families have heard things or experienced things that just haven't worked for their kids. And they have said, you know what, I need another option. I want another option. We just did a poll and it demonstrated that 63% of parents have said that they are looking or will be looking for a new school or learning environment for their child. And even families who are saying right now, you know what, I probably am not going to make a choice because we've gotten used to this and we're going through it. They wish they had something available in case they needed it. So it's changed the outlook for K-12 education. It's changed the levels of interest in school choice. And I think that we are going to see a new era of school choice dawn after this, because parents are never going to want to go back to a time when they had too few options.
Thank you, Andrew. Just one other question. What steps do you suggest parents take when considering education options for their child?
Sure. So the first step is to evaluate your own educational experiences, because what you learned in school as a parent, what you didn't learn in school, whether you like school, what your experiences were, that does inform your decision-making process for your kids. And it's important to put that into context, because you want to make sure that you're making a decision that you're comfortable with, but also a decision that helps recognize that your child is his or her own unique human being. The second step is to evaluate your goals for your child. Who do you want your child to be, turn out to be? What do you want your child to become? And I don't mean a doctor, a lawyer, a firefighter, you know, the values that matter to you and your family. The third step is to really dive deep into what you want and need from a school. We have a ton of resources on our website. I know the last question, which I guess I didn't fully answer, asked what resources have we developed? Our team has probably developed more resources on our website for families, completely jargon-free, totally practical. They've been used by more than 1 million people this last year, designed to help families navigate their options. So there is a school choice roadmap for each of the 50 states, a description of all the different types of schools out there, helpful information on how you can help your child navigate this pandemic and learn more during this stressful time. So check out all those options. That's the next step. Then make a list of schools in your area. We have a school finder tool on our website, schoolchoiceweek.com, to help you make that list. It includes public, charter, magnet, private, online, and home options. Visit schools or talk to schools at events like this. Ask lots of questions that are specific to your own family's priorities. Talk to other parents, narrow your list down, talk to your kids, and enroll. Those are the steps that I encourage families to take. You can find out more on our website. We have lots of worksheets parents can print out. It's all completely free. You don't even have to log in with a password.
Thank you, Andrew. I'm so glad you were able to be with us today, and I know you've got places to go and people to see. So thank you for taking the time to be at our event. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And again, congratulations to everyone on this call today. And thank you. I will see you all soon and hopefully get out to California soon.
Yeah. Thank you. And before we move on, I just wanted to mention to our participants that we are taking questions in the chat only. And those chat questions are going straight to the hosts, so we can see them and we can ask them of the speakers. So go ahead and ask whatever questions during the talks throughout today. Now back to Mary.
Wow, what powerful information. That was just so important, and everyone knows his link is on the website, on the chat, so look there. Next, we have a School Choice Week dance by Broadway Productions.
right here. We'll get you up and get you going. Start your day. With so many choices, it's tough to stay with one. Got way too many options just to have some fun. You can listen to the others, but they might not understand. Just put yourself in your shoes. It's time to take a stand, and you can make it happen. It won't be very hard. You just got to realize that you can go so far. Just start your day right here. We'll get you up and get you going. Start your day right here. We'll get you up and get you going right here. Life is a challenge. Some days are just too much. So many things to manage. When you're feeling out of touch, we can make it better. Just turn around and see. No matter what the weather, be the best that you can be. And you can make it happen. It won't be very hard. You just got to realize that you can go so far. Just start your day right here. We'll get you up and get you going. Start your day right here. We'll get you up and get you going. Start your day right here. We'll get you up and get you going. Start your day right here. We'll get you up and get you going right here. Start your day right here. We'll get you up and get you going. Start your day right here. We'll get you up and get you going right here.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much. That is Magda Gomez with Broadway Productions. And next up, we have our first set of door prizes. We're going to give away 5 $25 gift cards. And I believe the link is in the chat to sign up.
All right, I went ahead and took the list at 10:15, but if you want to continue participating, we will have 3 more after this. So stay tuned for the rest. Let me know when you're ready.
Go ahead. We're ready. All right. I guess everyone can see. All right. Was everybody able to see who the winner was? Because I lost the screen. Yes. Okay.
I saw it, but we're going to do 4 more right now.
Yeah.
Right, Laura?
Oh, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
Thank you for being patient with me. Here we go. Good luck.
And our next prize winner is, all right, 3 to go. Congratulations, Jennifer.
Ooh.
Congratulations, David.
All right, we're good, right?
I believe we have one more.
Okay.
And congratulations, Sandra.
So what will our winners get today?
So they will each get a $25 gift card to Amazon for the first 5 winners. All right, are we ready to move on? Next up, we have Heather Martinson with Celebration Education.
Great. Okay, let me get my screen share on real quick. Okay, hope you guys can see my slides. I'm really excited to be here today. And just a little bit about the raffle. Yeah, we're doing 25 gift cards at the first 2 breaks, this one and the next one. And then we're doing a $50 gift card at our 3rd break. And then at the end, we're doing 5 $100 gift cards. So if you haven't already put your name in the Google Doc that's in the chat, go ahead and follow that link and put your name in the Google Doc so that you can make sure that you're on the list for the prizes. So we're really excited about that we have the opportunity to give away these prizes. Anyway, I'm also excited to be talking to you guys today. Just a little bit of an introduction for myself. I started Celebration Education in 2006, and it was just 1 class a week in a small town here in Southern California. But by now, Celebration Education has been in 4 counties and offering up to 3 days of classes each week. But my story actually starts back in the 80s when my mom started homeschooling my younger siblings. I knew at that time that my kids were not going to be going to traditional schools. I have learned through the years that there are many ways to learn, and school is just one of those options. Simply put, you can learn about flowers in a class, but you can also learn about flowers by simply examining them and Googling your questions. I wanted to hold a conference this month because I feel frustrated when I hear that there are children who are struggling with their learning environment, and my heart aches for the kids that are suffering. So today I want you to learn that there are many ways to educate a child and that you can find whatever learning environment is best for your kids. Please don't stress out over if your child is falling behind right now, because being behind in school is a temporary problem that can be fixed in a matter of weeks in the right learning environment. My concern is for the psychological damage that some children are going through right now. This isn't as easy to fix, and it can leave scars that will last well past the pandemic. Also, I want you to know that learning is more important than schooling. I know through experience that science, reading, social studies, STEM, math, writing, all of the school subjects can be learned as a natural, normal part of everyday life. Learning can happen anytime, anywhere, and kids don't need a classroom in order to learn. See, children like to learn, and unless school gets in the way, they will always naturally be learning. Sometimes though, school requirements do get in the way. For example, if your child is always asking questions, I mean, it can be annoying, but this is proof that they're learning. As long as they're still asking questions, you know they still like learning, which is a good thing. A long time before the internet existed, children were learning outside of school. Whether by choice or by circumstance, many impressive people gained their educations outside a traditional classroom. People like Thomas Jefferson, Alexander Hamilton, Abraham Lincoln, Claude Monet, Florence Nightingale, Booker T. Washington, George Washington, Phyllis Wheatley, Laura Ingalls Wilder, Orville and Wilbur Wright, Susan B. Anthony, Charlie Chaplin, Charles Dickens, Albert Einstein, Benjamin Franklin, the Williams sisters, and so many more people. These people were fortunate to get the education that matched their talents and allowed them to increase their genius. They got their educations through non-traditional means, giving them opportunities to do more than they would be allowed to do if they were in school. I believe that every child has genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it's stupid. I chose to homeschool my kids before they were even born because I wanted them to have the opportunity to learn from more than one teacher and one textbook. The majority of my kids' learning happened without schools and without curriculum. We had adventures and they were allowed to study whatever they liked. By now, all my kids are grown. One of them has graduated from college and a second is now applying for master's degrees. Not that college is the only indicator of success, but I know it's a measuring stick that many people recognize and value. But I want you to know that my kids weren't perfect, like all kids. There are no perfect kids, right? But my child on the autism spectrum wrote volumes of journals before graduating high school at 17. When my dyslexic child was a teen, his favorite author was Steinbeck. My child that waited until he was 10 to finally start reading had read a stack of books taller than himself by the time he turned 11. My child that taught himself to read when he was 4, however, he decided to start studying the elements when he was 7 years old. All of these accomplishments, my kids probably wouldn't have had the opportunity to do if they were stuck in a classroom. Personally, I believe that in the near future, there will be many more students in schools that are less and less like the schools we grew up in. There will be the traditional schools, but also hybrid schools, home schools, pods, micro schools, charter schools, so many more ways that we can educate children once we start thinking that there's more than just the classroom. Each of these new schools with their own educational philosophies and their own approach to learning. And I think that's exciting. To me, I love hearing about new ways to learn. With so many schooling options here in California, I'm confident that every family can find the schooling their child needs. To help in your search, I invited a number of people to speak to you today about various types of schooling and learning methods. I hope you can learn something new today and feel inspired to make a change for your children if it's necessary. The great thing is that when our kids are in the right learning environments, they will amaze us all. There's so much good in store for them when you give them the chance. So that's my talk. If you want to know more about Celebration Education, you can go to celebrationeducation.com. I'm starting a new project right now, which is learningoutsidethebox.com, where we're making Celebration Education lesson plans available to anyone, anywhere, any learning circumstance can use our Celebration Education. That's still in the works. So if you go there, it's a little shaky right now, but we'll be having a beta program soon. So if you want to be involved in that, let us know. Are there any questions for me? Me being the question giver, I need to check chat. Let me go ahead and unshare my screen so I can see better. Okay, let's see. How can you make sure the kids don't fall behind? Well, truth is you can't. Any learning environment, there's always those risks, but personally, I don't worry about my kids falling behind. I worry more about the kids that are not learning in the way that they should. If they, that I believe that kids should be working on their strengths and that their weaknesses will catch up in time, but that we shouldn't focus on the things they're bad at instead of the things that they're good at. The second question, what was that? Where'd it go? Sorry. I'm looking at too many things at once. Okay, how can I legally get my kids? Okay, well, yeah, question being, how can I legally get my kids out of their school? And actually, I believe that Windi is going to be talking to that later today, because there are several different ways that you can get out of a school if it's necessary. So we'll let Windi address that. And I think that's it for me. Thank you. On to the next person.
Thank you so much, Heather. Great job. So exciting. Next up, we have Jeff Barke, MD with Orange County Classical Academy.
Awesome. Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Wonderful. I am so excited to be with you and have an opportunity to say a few words. I'm the co-founder and board president of Orange County Classical Academy. And Orange County Classical Academy is a free public charter school in the city of Orange. We started this last August, and we filled up very quickly, and we've got a 1,000-person interest list that are interested in getting in. Basically, every week we have a parent crying on the phone asking if we can get in to our school. What's unique about Orange County Classical Academy is in the name Classical Academy. We are a classical education institution. And it's always a little difficult to try to explain what classical education is. I heard it described recently, and I thought this was a great explanation. It's the education that our founders received. So a long time ago, about 50, 75 years ago, it was normal to have a classical education. We didn't call it classical education. It was just the way we educated kids. What's unique about it is the kids learn from primary sources. Now, what that means is that, for example, if they're learning about the Constitution, they don't read a book about the Constitution that might be filled with the author's bias or perspective. They read the Constitution itself. They read from the documents that the founders wrote about the writing of the Constitution. So as best as possible, they read primary sources. They also learn from the greatest thinkers in Western civilization, which unfortunately no longer is the case in most traditional public education schools. That is people like Plato, Aristotle, Homer, Shakespeare, etc. So some of the greatest thinkers that ever existed, those are who our kids learn from. In addition, unique to classical education is that our foreign language is Latin. Now you may think, come on, nobody speaks Latin these days. And the purpose of using Latin is not so they can become fluent and speak Latin. It's because almost everything we do in Western civilization is based on Latin roots. So I'm a physician, and every time I write a prescription, I use abbreviations that are based on Latin. So for example, I might write a prescription for a patient to take a medication every day, and I write the abbreviation Q day, and that's Latin for daily. And it's amazing how many professions, law, medicine, engineering, that include Latin roots. So once you know Latin roots, it makes you so much a better speller. It makes you better at word composition. It makes you better at grammar, etc. So classical education is the education that our founders received when they were growing up. It's the way education was up until about 50, 75 years ago. And I believe it is a better mechanism of educating our kids. Being in California, we were blessed with Common Core for many years. And fortunately, Common Core, although not required in California, is still strongly recommended. We've eliminated Common Core from our curriculum. We are associated with Hillsdale College in Michigan, and we use their K through 12 curriculum. Right now, we're a K through 5 school. Every year, we're going to add a grade until we're K through 12. And we're looking forward to expanding our school and hopefully adding more campuses as we continue to get successful and as we see that the need is growing. So it's been an honor for me to be associated with Orange County Classical Academy. We've already had phone calls from around the country and around Orange County and California with other people that are interested in using our model and opening up charter schools. Charter schools is but one form of school choice. Again, we are a free public charter school. We have to follow all the California Ed Code rules, and we do. We're non-selective. That means anybody that wants to come to our school can come to our school. We don't discriminate against anyone. If we have more people that want to come than we have room, then we have to hold a lottery to determine who's going to come to our school. So that's an outline of what we do and what classical education is. And I can't see the chat, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions if there are any.
You know, I just see one quick question. I know you have to get to your next event. The question is, how soon do you plan to expand and where?
So we'll be expanding at our own campus. Every year we're going to add another grade, and we have 2 classrooms per grade. So that's an additional 60 students per year that we can add. We're currently in discussions now about bringing additional Orange County Classical Academy campuses to Orange County. With a little luck, we might get a school up and running August, September of this year. More likely, we'll open our next campus August, September of 2022. And if you're interested, shoot me an email and I'd be more than happy to give you details. If you have a kid in that range of K through 12, K through 5, let me know and we can put you on an interest or waiting list as well. And if you're interested in helping with our effort, would love to have you on board. If you're a passionate school choice proponent, we're always looking for people to join our team and to help us be successful.
Just before you leave, we've got 2 more questions and they're very similar. You're not following Common Core, and so they're asking what curriculum it is that you're using, if you could repeat that.
Yeah, you know, that's an excellent question. One of the unique things about being a charter school is we are given more flexibility with our curriculum. So what we do is we don't look to the government to tell us what curriculum works best. We look to best practices. So we can look around the country, whether it's math, for example, what is the absolute best math learning program for our children, and that's where we start. So math, for example, we use Singapore math. Why Singapore math? Well, when you study Singapore math and look at where it's used around the world, by far, the kids that are taught math via Singapore math do far better than other students. So that's why we incorporated Singapore math. Our K through 12 program guide, our outline of curriculum and the staging of how we teach it comes from Hillsdale College. They have a K through 12 charter school movement called the Barney Charter School Initiative. And we use their curriculum as far as the program guide and the sequencing of what we teach. So I hope that answers that question.
Just one last thing, give me your email to put in the chat since you offered it.
Email is just my name, Jeff, J-E-F-F, Barke, B like boy, A-R-K-E, @gmail.com, Jeff Barke @gmail.com. If you do email me, remind me that you heard me on this broadcast, if you will, and I will try to return all your emails within 24 hours of receiving them.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for your time this morning. We appreciate it. Next up is Windi Eklund from the California Homeschool Network, Homeschool Concierge, another great option for our children.
Thank you, Mary.
Of course.
Sorry, bear with me. Hi, I'm Windi, longtime homeschool mom of 3 and passionate advocate for homeschooling and school choice. Homeschooling has been growing in California for many years, and especially recently due to the pandemic. Homeschooling does not technically exist in California. Every child aged 6 through 18 is legally required to be enrolled in a California public or private school. There are 5 legal options for educating your children at home in our state. They are PSAs, PSPs, ISPs, independent study charter schools, or the credentialed teacher tutor exception. First, we are going to explore the private school affidavit, or PSA. When a homeschool family files a PSA, they are in essence claiming their home a private school. The PSA form is found on the California Department of Education's website, and it is a very easy form to fill out. Families must file the PSA between October 1st and 15th every school year. This is the filing window for all California private schools. If you are withdrawing your child from school and establishing your private school after October 15th, you will file your PSA at that time. Compulsory education in California begins the year a child turns 6 on or before September 1st of that school year. There is no need to file a PSA for a child under 6. Children cannot legally be enrolled in more than one full-time school, so you cannot file a PSA and also be enrolled in any other school. This law does not exclude you from enrolling your child in enrichment classes at a local community center, a homeschool learning center, or dual enrolling in college courses. You can choose any name you want for your private school. The CDE only publishes private school details for schools with 6 or more students enrolled. If you have fewer than 6 children, your information will remain private. Testing is not a requirement for those filing privately. Private school teachers are not required to be credentialed in the state of California, and this law extends to homeschool parents filing the PSA. Your private school must offer instruction in the branches of study required in public schools. PSA filing families are exempt from state immunization requirements, but families are encouraged to keep records, which may include a blank or partially complete immunization card. The next legal option for homeschooling in California is the Private School Satellite Program, or PSP. PSPs are private schools that a family chooses to join and pays an annual enrollment fee to. The PSP leader files the PSA on behalf of a group of students enrolled in their program. Parents who sign up for PSPs become a teacher of their own children in that school. Many families choose a PSP because they want help with record keeping. PSPs may offer other homeschool support and access to special classes and programs. One of the public options for homeschooling in California is the District Independent Study Program. A district ISP is a public school program that matches families with California credentialed teachers and provides students with access to educational materials. Since they are public school programs, they are free to enroll in. These schools follow the curriculum and educational plan of that district. Student progress is assessed throughout the school year with assignment tracking and testing. Families are required to have frequent meetings with their assigned credentialed teacher. You can learn more about ISPs near you by contacting your local school district, neighboring school districts, or your county office of education. In 1992, the California State Legislature passed the Charter Schools Act, making California the second state in the nation after Minnesota to allow public charters. Since that time, there has been a steady increase of high-performing, innovative charter schools in our state, giving parents more choices in public education than they ever had before. Homeschoolers who choose to enroll in charter schools typically choose the independent study, non-classroom-based model. In this model, the parent is the main educator. Families are matched with a California credentialed teacher that they work with to create educational goals. Charter schools are bound to the same legal education requirements that all public schools in California are: Common Core, grade progress tracking, and state testing. The schools may vary in some of their approaches to these requirements. Families meet monthly with their teacher of record. Instructional funds are a wonderful perk of enrolling in an independent study charter school. Not all of these schools offer instructional funds, and the amount varies from school to school. It's good to know that instructional funds cannot be used for religious materials or classes. Some schools offer additional support, such as lending libraries, learning centers, and community centers. Independent study charter schools are legally allowed to serve students who live in the county of the district that they are authorized in or any adjacent county. Many families are now looking to virtual charter schools due to COVID because these schools have been supporting students for many years in the virtual classroom setting, and they are experts in how to best serve students this way. The last of the 5 legal ways to homeschool is the credentialed teacher tutor option. Similar to a PSA, but without the filing, parents may choose to hire a credentialed teacher who is qualified by law to teach the grade their child is in, or they can do it themselves if they hold the correct teaching credential. However, most homeschool support organizations advise that parents either file a PSA or create records showing that their children are receiving an education by keeping a portfolio of work samples. All parents have the right to pull their child out of school at any time. You just need to let your child's current school know in writing that they are withdrawing and going to a new private or public school. That wraps up my talk on school choice for homeschooling in California. I'm always available to help families find the right educational path. Please reach out if you need any help. Thank you.
Am I back?
Thank you, Windi.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, I've got a couple of questions for Windi.
Okay.
Let me get to those real quick. Sorry. Okay. Oh, here's a good one. Which of these homeschool options do you use for your children?
The beauty of homeschooling is that you can adapt with the seasons of life and do what fits the needs of your family's best. When we first started our homeschool journey, we enrolled in a district ISP. We quickly found that the curriculum and workload were not a good match for our oldest child. We then enrolled in a non-classroom based charter school. We have been with 3 different charters over the last 12 years, and they all worked very well for our kids. Last school year, we pulled out our oldest from the charter school and filed a PSA, because the charter school was not flexible enough to support his interest-led studies and projects for high school. This school year, our youngest two also left the charter school system, and I've enrolled all three of them in a PSP. So we've tried them all.
Perfect.
You know what? I have one more here in the chat as well that came directly from Gina. Can I file a PSA after this school year during the summer question?
So you don't actually file the PSA during the summer. If you file the PSA during the summer for the next school year, you're actually filing for the previous school year. So the filing window for the 21-22 school year does not open until October 1st. So you want to wait until October 1st. But if you pull your child out anytime during this school year to homeschool, you can file immediately when you pull them out. Did that make sense?
Yes, thank you so much, Wendy. Great information. There was another question, but I think you answered it. The favorite thing about homeschooling, and I think it was that it's just so flexible. Is that pretty much?
Yeah, my favorite thing about homeschooling is the alternative learning lifestyle that we lead. We are free to dive deeply into topics, learning and sharing knowledge as a family. And since we do not have a typical family schedule where we are frantically running between work, school, and activities while trying to squeeze in homework, we have a lot more time to enjoy our children and take advantage of shopping, traveling, and field tripping while everyone else is at school. I love all the extra moments I get to spend with my kids because they grow up way too fast.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm seeing another question in the chat. We're about to go to our second set of prizes. The question is, do charters typically have programs for special needs? And the answer is absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. All right, are we ready to go to prizes?
Yes, I can answer this other one, I think.
Oh, is there another one on there?
Oh, and I think I had a PDF to share. I can put that in the chat as well. And it has a lot of information and links to where you can find PSPs and charter schools and all of this kind of stuff. So I'll put that in there. Just give me a second.
Thank you so much, Wendy. We really appreciate the great information. And I think we're going to move on to our next set of 5 $25 prize winners.
Yay!
Congratulations, Randa. Congratulations, Lana. Congratulations, Anastasia. Congratulations, Marianne. And I think we have one more, our last one for this section. Congratulations, Divya. Okay, are we ready to move next to Nancy Mikhail from Build a Project, project-based learning? Is Nancy in the house?
She is. I think we just need to make her co-host here.
Okay.
All done. She should be with us here quickly.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm going to share my screen right now. Let's see. Okay, so my name is Nancy Mikhail, and I will be talking about project-based learning, which is just a learning and teaching option in homeschool or in schools I am a credentialed teacher, and I now run a project-based learning company in which I write projects for homeschoolers and classrooms. So what is project-based learning? So basically it is a learning unit about one topic. It's a comprehensive project, and it usually has an essential question. In a project-based learning, we are incorporating different ways to learn, which means rather than just reading from a textbook or just doing a worksheet, we're incorporating different learning styles. So, showing videos, doing mini projects that lead to answering the essential question. Students are researching their topic. They are learning as they go along, and they're filling in blanks and gaps into what they're learning, and they're taking control of their learning. They're creating models of what they're learning, or structures, or some kind of final product in the project-based learning model. In project-based learning, it's very easy to incorporate other subject areas. So if the main topic you're learning about is science, it's very easy to incorporate writing, sometimes math, art, a combination of subjects to really encompass and connect learning ideas all across different content areas, but keeping the same learning idea or topic in place. A lot of times project-based learning projects apply to real-world situations, which really helps make that school or learning connect to a real-world situation, which in turn helps for our kids' futures so that they can easily make those connections. So for project-based learning types of projects, they typically start with an essential question, and many times it's a real world question. So I'll give you an example. I've written a weather project, and this is for the little ones K through 2nd. And the essential question is, what kind of structure can we build to protect us from weather? So they go through all of the, learning about weather, and they go through different structures and all of that, and then they have to create a structure by the end. So that is a real world situation that they're faced with, because when it's raining or snowing, how do we protect ourselves from weather? Let's see. So then throughout the project, we are including mini activities and research, and this is all based on the children's grade level and adapted to their grade levels. They usually have an end product to the final question. Like I mentioned, the structure for the weather project. I have a Native American project, and in that one, the kids write a children's book after they learned about a Native American tribe, and they create a children's book about the Native American tribe. So it ends with like a final product that they can reteach to someone, and they kind of come out from that learning topic with a final end product. In a project, students can typically complete a series of activities and include other content areas to help them research and learn more about the topic. There's almost always writing in the projects. There is almost always art, where there some type of, maybe even if it's a craft or drawing or creating a sculpture of some sort. The extra content areas are bonuses. If we could correlate math when we're learning about weather or even Native Americans, that helps build even more information and more connections into what they're learning. Another, or if you're incorporating technology, or in a project about building circuits or ecosystems. So as much as we can make those connections, it's really beneficial for students. So more on making connections, the more that we correlate other content areas and integrate it into our daily life and make those connections for our students, the more it will seem relevant for students and they will retain it even better. And I've seen it with my own children when I've taught them something and then we go outside and they see something and they make those connections. If you're in a classroom or if you are doing it with your child at home, it's best to designate some time into your learning day to really focus on the project. And it's easy to do it and hit it because you are teaching many content areas at one time, and it's all connecting. So they're learning about something and then they're writing it and then they create something. So you're hitting many different content areas at one time. So what are the benefits? I've mentioned some, but here are some more. So like I said, they make the connections. One of my favorite things is that they increase their critical thinking, their analyzing and problem solving skills. The children are really taking their education and their learning into their own hands. They're the ones that are finding the information. They come up with the solution to the problem. And of course, with our guidance, they can do this, but it's really a strong way for them to take control of their learning rather than them being passive in their education where they're just doing worksheet after worksheet or reading textbook after textbook. They're able to be hands-on with their own learning. And like I said, it really connects with real life situations. If they see something outside of learning in the home or in the classroom that correlates with what they're learning, it really makes those exciting connections for them. So I do have some projects, buildaproject.net/shop, if you're interested in any, and that kind of wraps up what my presentation. I'll answer any questions if you have them.
I see a couple questions for you.
Sorry, I was muted. I'm so sorry about that.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Anyway, I have one question. It may apply to more than you, Nancy, and then I have a couple directly for you. The first one is from a homeschool mom that has about 200 books for homeschooling, reading, curriculum, posters, all kinds of stuff, and wants to know where she might donate it. So anybody maybe could respond to everyone on the chat if they have a place to donate, unless somebody wants to answer right now. If not, I have a couple of other questions for Nancy. What if I have different levels of students or children? What would be the best way to integrate PBL?
So that's actually, project-based learning really comes in handy when you have different levels of students or different children in different grade levels, because you can adapt the learning activity to their grade level. So maybe when you're presenting the information, it's all the same for everybody, but then when they break out into doing the different activities, you can adapt it to what their level is. So for example, you teach your lesson and then they each do an activity. Well, the second grader can work on maybe writing one sentence about what they just learned, whereas the fifth grader could maybe write a paragraph, or they can reteach to their younger siblings or something to that effect. So it really comes in handy when they have to when they have to work on their own independent activity.
Great, thank you. Great explanation. Next question. My child has a hard time staying engaged. What can I do?
So I always like to start with what the child's interests are and then go from there and try to integrate it in some way. So say your child is very interested in sports and it's just really hard for them to stay still and pay attention, and you're trying to teach them about ecosystems and they're just not having it. So maybe take them outside, play some basketball with them, maybe ask them questions about what you're trying to teach them, or talk about it briefly and incorporate it that way. So just start with like what they're interested in, and if you could integrate it into the teaching aspect of it, that's even more beneficial. However, just start there, and then you can lead into it, and then maybe, like, you know, if they like to play sports, you get their energy out, and then come back and work on what you need to work on.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Such great information. If anybody else has questions that we can't get to right now, her information is in the chat. Build a project, so you can go there and ask your questions directly to her. Thank you so much. And just to let you know, there were a bunch of comments for the homeschool mom that was looking where to donate, sell. So if you look in the chat, it looks like we have a bunch of answers for you. Next up, we have Cassi Clausen, the Open School, Free Democratic Schools, How Private Schools Can Be Affordable.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for having me at this fair. I'm going to talk about a couple different things today. So first of all, my name is Cassi. I'm one of the founders of the Open School. We are a self-directed democratic school, which can also be called a Sudbury school. So that's the kind of model that I'm going to be talking about today. So there are about 80 Sudbury schools in the world. It's not, there's not a ton of them everywhere. Only 2 Sudbury schools in California, including the Open School. The other one is in Concord, Northern California, called Diablo Valley School. But there are other schools with similar philosophies to ours, and they may be called free schools, and there's a lot more of those. So if when I'm talking, you're interested in learning more about our kind of school, and there's not a Sudbury school near you, look for free school, look for democratic school. You might find something that aligns with your values if what I'm talking about is interesting to you. So I could go on about all of the different fundamental assumptions that we have that are different from a conventional educational model. And in fact, in another hour-long presentation, I have done that. But today, I'm just going to focus on the core fundamental assumption to schools like ours. And this is that children are human beings and deserve to be afforded the same human rights as all other human beings. So the main core right of that is autonomy, the ability to make decisions for yourself and for your time, for your mind, for your words, for your property. Having autonomy is really important. So the way that that shows up is in our self-directed democratic school model. And I'm going to walk through what those words mean. Self-directed it's talking about the curriculum, if you will, of the school. What do the kids learn? What is it that they're focusing on? Well, they make decisions for themselves. And so they make, just like as adults, when we are curious about learning something and we research it or ask questions or watch videos to learn about it or practice with it or experiment, that's what our students do also. So the school is providing the space, either the campus or now in COVID, the virtual space. We provide the resources and the staff that act as facilitators, but there's no top-down curriculum that's set by a teacher or by a school system. It is all learner-centered and learner-initiated. So a lot of what Heather was talking about at the beginning, as far as like kids learning through their interests, that's what's happening at schools like ours. So if you're familiar with the term unschooling, unschooling is a philosophy of homeschooling that is learner driven education. And we do that in a community, in a collaborative way, and then in a democratic space. So that's kind of where we overlap with unschooling. And what happens when kids are learning things that matter to them, that they're interested in, is that the learning is meaningful. And so then they actually retain it for a lot longer and become specialists in that. So, what that might look like in our school, I mean, we have plenty, like in this picture, plenty of artists and kids who are pursuing, things from graphic design to, painting and sculpture. We have kids who are really interested in video games, who are interested in programming, who are interested in game design. Some of our older kids, what happens as they become teenagers is they really dive deep into certain projects and things that that are passions for them. And so they do things like, I have one student right now who's writing and animating and producing a animated series for YouTube. And it's a complete world that he's created, and he's getting voice actors, and he's learning all the different elements. And this is because he has a passion for film and for filmmaking. And so he's got the support at our school to be able to pursue that. So, you know, I have another student who's an artist, and she's started her own art business and has an Instagram page and sells commissions because, you know, at our school, so she's 14 and she has her first business. Actually, not her first business. This is maybe her fourth business because she's done so many things like this over the years at our school. So self-direction is the curriculum. It's where the topics that the kids learn come from. And the other side of that coin is responsibility. If you are only given freedom and no responsibility, then students become entitled. They just want to do whatever they want and have the adults, you know, figure it out for them. That's not the way things work at our school and schools like ours. Is that, you know, the content is limitless. So the kids can pursue anything that's available, anything. It's not within a group of options that we give to them. It's truly student-centered, but they are responsible for making those plans a reality. They are the ones that they have to create the experience for themselves and execute their plan. The staff are there as support, but we don't take over. So like examples are, you know, at our school, students can plan any field trip. They plan all the field trips. We don't plan any field trips for them. And so if they want to go to the movies or the park or Disneyland, if they can figure out how to make it happen, it can happen. So the content and the actual what is not as important to us as the fact that these kids are working that muscle of becoming self-directed and personally responsible. So if you can figure out how much money it costs to go to Disneyland and figure out how people are going to make, you know, how we're going to pay for it, and if we're going to raise money, and if we're going to, and this is a real story because we actually had a student who wanted to propose, you know, wanted to go to Disneyland, and my adult reaction was, we can't afford that. That's not going to happen. But that's not what I said. I said, well, if you can figure it out, yeah, I mean, we can go anywhere. There's, you know, we could go to Europe. I don't know. You're like, if you can figure it out, then we can do it. So, so we're really empowering the kids with that ability to figure out how to make things happen for themselves. The responsibility, and the responsibility also can look like cleaning up after yourself. I mean, how many of us wish that our kids would be a little bit better about this, right? And so it's not just about planning and executing, but also about cleaning up, about finishing up, about completing the project from start to finish. And if that means you're cooking, then at the end of cooking, you clean the kitchen. If that means you're doing art, at the end of your art project, you're putting everything away. You're treating the resources with respect. So those are the things that our kids are learning at our school. Now, the other element of a model like ours is the democratic element. This is the way we structure our government system at our school. So if you are concerned about a student's personal rights and autonomy, you have to pay attention to how the school is run. And a authoritarian kind of hierarchical traditional structure of a school model with principal and teachers is going to inherently infringe on individual rights. So our school is a democratic election-based flat structure. So we have the best chance of preserving those individual rights. The way that works is every student and staff have one vote. And my vote, because I'm the founder, because I'm the adult, does not have higher weight than my 6-year-old son's vote. Everyone's vote is the same. We all discuss and vote on things to do with running the school. The students are an actual part of making business decisions and making decisions for our school. That includes budget, hiring and firing. That includes field trips, how we spend our money. The kids are actually seeing a real business, a real school in practice, and they are given real responsibility and they rise to it. And so that's what democratic school means. And then we also have a peer justice process in many Sudbury schools that's called a judicial committee. And in our school, we called it civics board. It's the same thing. It means anytime that someone breaks a rule, they could be written up, and then the civics board is charged with processing that rule infraction. And it's a peer conversation. It's not an adult telling a child they did something wrong, but it's really the place where our community can deal with problems. So that's kind of what the democracy looks like. This is an example of a committee meeting that's happening. Students can be on any number of committees to do with running the school: budget committee, PR, welcome committee, party committee. There's a lot of elements to running a school, and students are on many of those committees. And then they also can pursue different subject areas and have their own budget and autonomy to pursue those things. So we might have like a group of kids who are interested in cooking, and they want to have money for ingredients every month. And so they have their own budget that they can control. One other element of a self-directed democratic school, which is a byproduct, but also is really an amazing element, is that we have age mixing. So when people have autonomy, there's no reason to separate them by age. So being an age mixed community is part of our model. It turns out that it's a magic ingredient. Growth, learning, compassion, empathy, all of those things come from age mixing. You have kids of all ages who become BFFs, who help each other, who teach each other, and who learn. They become caregivers to younger kids. They learn from each other in sometimes more engaging way than they learn from an adult, because an adult can be 30 years difference and have like almost a language barrier sometimes with children, whereas someone who just learned to read a couple years ago might be better at explaining something to you than someone who's an adult. So that's what the age mixing element is. So I was asked also to talk a little bit about being able to afford private schools. As I'm the only private school represented here, I wanted to talk a little bit about this because, and I do have to say, like, I feel a little bit like I'm kind of giving away the secret. So so don't tell anyone who told you this information. But the thing about affording private school, there's a couple of things to think about. First of all, prioritize education in your budget. This is a big part of your child's life. So if you believe that there's a private school that fits your child and it's the best environment for them, you might have to make some sacrifices. It might mean, adjusting your vacations or changing, eating out less or something. You look at your budget. If it's a priority for you, for your child, then make it a priority in your budget. Also realize that you might notice that expenses and income will shift based on enrolling in a private school. So if for example, and it depends on what school you're enrolling in, I'm not talking specifically just about mine anymore, but any private school, like if you're already paying for tutoring, you might be enrolling in a private school where you don't have to pay for that anymore. Or another thing is, it's if you are going from homeschooling, or from maybe your child this is their first school and you've been a stay-at-home parent, you might be able to now get a job because your child's in school. So you can increase your income that way. The other thing is, most private schools have financial aid or sliding scale options, and many of them are not advertising this. So sometimes they don't put it on their front page that they have financial aid. This is intentional. So financial aid it's an unfunded discount. So when a school is giving financial aid, they're just discounting off their tuition. They don't have some, millionaire who's donating to offset that. So they want to give the financial aid to the people who really want to be at their school. So do your research. Find out, and if it's not there, email them, ask, do you have a financial aid program? Do you have sliding scale? What can we do with this tuition? I love your school. Flatter the heck out of them. I love your school. I want my child to go to your school so badly. She'll be perfect there, but we can't afford it. What can we do? Then in addition to financial aid, there might also be grants. So this is another place to ask. Now, grants are funded grant programs. So it's usually a finite amount, of money that can go into different students' tuitions. So there might be certain criteria, and it might depend on demographics. It might depend, it's usually, there might be a grant where like they're trying to increase the number of 5-year-olds. And so they're trying to, you know, recruit that. So, but ask about grants for the private school. And then here's the big one, and this is the one I'm gonna get in trouble for. You are valuable. As an enrollee at a private school, you bring value to that school. Know that you're valuable and negotiate, okay? Tuition can be negotiable, especially if they don't have a huge wait list. Now, if you're talking about like a, you know, an elite school where they have people lining up to pay $20,000 a year, you might not have as much negotiation power. But for many private schools, they're not dealing with that problem. And you can say, here's what we can pay. You can make an offer and let them respond to that. You know, it's like any kind of other large purchase in your life. There's nothing written in stone that their tuition has to be their tuition. So you can make an offer and negotiate. Okay, so that's my talk about the school model and about private school, what I know from our position about making private school affordable. So if I have a couple minutes for questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, great information, such great information, and great information about private schools, because I know some that even give scholarships. So yeah, just check and see if you are
grants, scholarships, yeah.
Okay, so here's a question where we are kind of running late. So why don't we do one question and then we'll move on to Collin, if that's okay with you. How do you know what kids have learned or what they need to learn? Are there grades or reports of any kind?
Right, so our school, we believe in the human innate drive to learn, and that given space and freedom and support, children will learn. And a lot like, I believe Heather was talking about, like everyone learns at different things, and her 7-year-old was learning the periodic table. You know, if we start to try to measure and have a standard stick, then we're going to miss out on certain things. So we don't actually have any grades or report cards or anything like that. It is really about authentic, sort of personal. When you as an adult make an assessment of yourself, it looks something like this. Oh, I don't know a lot about that information. I would like to learn more. That's an assessment. And so that's what our kids do too, is that they go, oh, there's a hole in there's, you know, this thing that I want to do and I don't know how to do it. I need to learn about that. And so it's not a written grade report. Now we do have a transcript process. So for kids who matriculate, they can go through a transcript process so that they have something to bring to their next school. They can keep portfolios and things like that. But it's not something it's always student driven. It's always about the student's need and desire and goals, rather than the school saying, we're going to put this sort of expectation on you. I also had someone email me or text me directly or asking about it sounding like a Montessori school. There's a sort of some overlap with Montessori, but Montessori also still is pretty teacher directed compared to what we do. Usually Montessori will have options for the kids, and they'll have like centers, and kids can choose between a lot of the different centers, or they'll create projects and kids can choose between the projects. We don't have any teacher created projects or centers. It's just student centered, and we let them drive the bus, and then we are like the navigator, or, you know, we kind of support them along whatever their path is, wherever it takes them.
Thank you so much, Cassie. For anybody wanting additional information, her information is in the chat, so reach out to her directly. And thank you so much for explaining all of that. We really appreciate it. Next up, I'm excited to introduce, because I work with him at the County Board of Education, Collin Felch with Vista Condor Global Academy.
Thank you very much, Mary. And I'm delighted to be here today to celebrate school choice and also talk about something that's near and dear to my heart, charter schools, and really bring my unique perspective on school choice. So really quickly, just a little bit about who I am and why I have such a unique perspective. I started my career as a teacher in Los Angeles Unified in traditional public schools. I ended up becoming an instructional coach, working with 28 different schools in Los Angeles before moving to become an assistant principal, and then ultimately becoming a principal of actually 2 charter schools, Vista Condor Global Academy and Vista Heritage Global Academy, both located in Santa Ana. And having worked in both the traditional public school setting in the 2nd largest district in the United States, as well as working and even opening 2 very small charter schools in California, I have intimate knowledge of both types of systems. So really quickly, what are charter schools? We've heard a little bit about it earlier, but really charter schools are independently operated public schools. They are public schools, and I will talk about that in just a second. But because they are independently operated, they do have much more autonomy in terms of the curriculum and different programs that they choose and how they use their budgets. In California, however, they are authorized and they do have oversight, whether it is through their local district, as Mary said, through the County Office of Education, or even at the state level. Now, charter schools were initially created to give families choice in their public school options. And as a result, what that has also done is it has raised the bar in education across the state and across the US, because what it has also created is a greater sense of competition for all schools. And I have seen all schools start to raise their bar because of this type of competition. But really what charter schools bring is a knack for education or a knack for innovation in education. We've heard about a few types of charter schools, whether it's classical academies earlier with Dr. Barke, whether it's project-based learning. Some charter schools might bring dual language immersion, or even at the high school level, dual enrollment opportunities, STEM academies, or even innovative special education programs. So there is a wide range to meet the needs of every single parent, and that is really why charter schools exist. So I know that there's a lot of misinformation. There are a lot of questions out there. So I really wanted to address some of the most common questions and myths that I hear from parents all the time. So the first one is, how much do charters cost to attend? And as I mentioned earlier, charter schools are public schools. And as a result, they are completely free. Every charter school is completely tuition free. The second question that I receive all the time are, do charter schools cherry pick only the best students? Do they accept certain students over others, or do they accept students with disabilities? I think we even heard that earlier. And charter schools, because they are public schools, accept all students, regardless of their disability, regardless of maybe their past academic achievement, regardless of behavior or any other factors. Now, if the demand exceeds the supply of amount of students that charter school can hold, that school will hold a lottery, and as a result, that will randomly determine which students are enrolled in the charter school. I received this too. Are charter schools funded by billionaires, and do they get more money than traditional public schools? Actually, no. And on average, charter schools receive a little less funding than traditional district-run schools. Charter schools are funded through state and federal funds, just like traditional public schools. However, the way they use those funds are a little more flexible, because they can then decide what type of curriculum they would like to choose to use to educate the children at that school. How are charter schools held accountable? I mentioned how they were authorized either by the district, the county, or the state. And actually, if they're failing and they're not living up to their expectations, they could be at risk of not being renewed after a 5-year period. So unlike possibly other schools, that could be failing for years and even decades, charter schools really have to perform or they won't exist. Now, they still do operate within state and federal laws and guidelines. And again, from my perspective, having worked in a large district like Los Angeles Unified and a small charter school, I can actually tell you that charters are actually held more accountable than traditional public schools. And the last question that I receive is always around achievement and how charter schools are performing. And I like to point to a recent study out of Stanford University. This was a large study that, that found that charter schools all over were outperforming districts, but really in urban areas was the greatest amount of gain. And charter schools in urban areas were actually outgaining districts in the same area with the equivalent of 40 additional days of learning per school year in math and 28 additional days per school year in reading. So I want to just finish and say, as a parent myself, I know that parents know their child best, better than anybody out there. And one schooling option that works well for one child may or may not work well for another. In my career, I have visited or been in over 100 different schools. And I can safely say in every single school, there are children that are excelling. And there are also children that are struggling. And that's why it makes it so important that you do your research and choose the best schooling option for your child. So thank you very much. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Great presentation, Collin. I love the way you presented questions that are asked to you, because those are asked to me all the time. So that's a great way to start. So here's a great question for you too. How can charter schools expand to allow more students to enroll?
That is a wonderful question. Charter school, you know what? I'm actually going through that right now. So charter schools can expand through a number of different ways. Usually the biggest barrier is facilities. That's something that I've been constantly working on. But you do have to be authorized. So you can max out according to what is in your charter and what you have the space to offer. But as long as you are authorized, again, either through the district, county, or the state, you are able to expand as a charter as much as you are authorized for.
Great.
Say something real quick. In regards to non-classroom based charters, that question might be because of SB 98, which froze the funding, and children enrolling in non-classroom based charters, their funding wasn't going to follow them. So that made like an impact, and there was no way for the schools to enroll more students if they weren't going to get paid for them. So that's a little bit different than a brick and mortar charter school. They were funded differently than non-classroom based charters for this school year.
Yes. And that is specific to this school year, yeah.
Okay, another question. Let's see here. Does it matter where I live? Can I only attend a charter school in my neighborhood or district?
Great question. Yeah. So since charter schools are schools of choice, charter schools are actually open to any student who wants to apply, regardless of where they live, as long as, again, there is space in that school. Now, for independent study or non-classroom based charter schools, there are some geographic limitations that they have to be in that same specific county.
Okay, and one last one, and then we'll move to our next set of prizes. Are teachers in charter schools credentialed?
If I had a sixth myth to add to that slide, I would have added that. So yes, in California, charter schools are required to hire credentialed teachers for core classes and college preparatory subjects, just like other public schools.
Great. Well, thank you so much for the great information today, Collin. Again, I believe his information is in the chat. I know he's expanding, always looking for students, so reach out to him. They've got a great school. Next is very exciting. This is our third set of door prizes, and each one of these is a $50 Amazon gift card. Congratulations, Eddie. Congratulations, Savina. Congratulations, Julie. Congratulations, Erin. And now we have our fifth and final of the $50. Congratulations, Helena. Okay, thank you again, Collin. Great presentation. And now I'm very honored to introduce a hero of mine, Larry Sand, from California School Choice Foundation. He also does quite a bit of writing for the California Policy Center. So very familiar with Larry and honored to introduce you. Is Larry in the house? I saw him earlier. There we go. Hi, Larry.
Okay.
Welcome.
I am on now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you, Mary, and thank you all for being here. According to a report issued on October 1st by Stanford University, on average, students in 19 states had an estimated loss from 57 to 183 days of learning and reading, and from 136 to 232 days of learning in math in the spring of 2020 due to the lockdowns. As such, many families had to take their children's education into their own hands. And they started small homeschool-like arrangements called pandemic pods. And this is done with neighbors, family members, friends. Maybe 3 or 4 families would come together and put all their children in one home, have them learn together, sometimes taught by one of the parents, sometimes a rotation of parents, and at times by an outside tutor or an actual teacher. The latest Ed Choice poll on the subject has 15% of parents claiming they currently participate in one, and another 19% of parents say they are interested in joining one. Of course, no one knows how many of these will continue this arrangement when things get back to normal, if they ever get back to normal. Now, I have to talk about the pushback because this type of schooling is under attack by all the usual suspects. National Education Association President Becky Pringle worries that the pods will become more widespread and damage a public education system already reeling from budget cuts and struggling to fund COVID-19 safety measures. This scenario in turn could, and I quote again, open the door for more inequity, segregation, unsafe workplaces, since pods are expensive and unregulated. The union leaders talking about unregulated people in their homes are educating their kids but they're unregulated. Seriously threatened by the pod phenomenon, the NEA has taken action. The union issued an opposition report attacking Prenda, a microschool provider in Arizona, on very dubious grounds. Among other things, NEA says that apprentices should be taken to task for not providing meals or transportation to the students. What? In other words, the union is suggesting that parents are incapable of taking care of their kids' own basic needs. And it's not, sadly, just the teachers' unions that are going after the pods. An NYU sociologist referred to them as another example of opportunity hoarding, where well-off families are doubling down on their ability to provide high-quality education options for their children while leaving poor kids out in the cold. I'll get around to the poor kids in a minute. Joanna Weiss of Boston Globe writes, why learning pods could be worse for public school than the pandemic. And she writes that pods are a sign of panic and that funding disparities and a persistent achievement gap will be made worse if well-to-do families choose to homeschool. In Massachusetts, state guidelines affirm that entities that provide supervision and care of children during school hours without license exemption will be subject to investigation, closure, and fines. And in Pennsylvania, if a pod has more than 6 students, it must develop an evacuation plan in the event of an emergency. I mean, you talk about government overreach. A recent report released by Heritage Foundation policy analyst and all-around smart guy, I might add, Jonathan Butcher, reveals that 19 states have either imposed new regulations or expanded existing ones that can interfere with families' attempts to gain access to pods. Now, I referred to before about the equity issue, and there was, in July, there was a great fix-all where everybody could have been helped. Tim Scott and Lamar Alexander introduced the School Choice Now Act, how pertinent, being School Choice Week. And this would have given public schools, private schools, and homeschool families the resources that they need to ensure the students have access to a quality education in these uncertain times. And basically, it would have worked where scholarship granting organizations would be authorized to use one-time funding to provide families with direct educational assistance for academic instruction that works best for their kid, including private school tuition, homeschool expenses. But amazingly, all the equity zealots were mum on this bill, and it went nowhere in Congress. While generally speaking, federally run programs like this are inadvisable, this plan would have been a godsend to those in need during the bizarre times. All these people, all families, maybe you're in a single parent home and the mother has to go to work. These few extra bucks could have provided a homeschooling option for them. At the end of Jonathan Butcher's report, he makes sensible policy recommendations that include not restricting the size of pods, keeping state agencies from snooping on them, not imposing zoning or emergency plan requirements, etc. In other words, parents should be in full control of the children's learning experience and free to innovate. Parents get to choose the clothes their kids wear, the food they eat, the doctors they see, their bedtimes, etc. It is now time for them to recover an important role they have traditionally had, educating them. Propping up the education establishment and enriching teachers' unions, using their own kids as social equity pawns just may not be on their radar. In closing, the latest data from the National Center for Education Statistics show that there are 1.69 million homeschool kids in the US in 2016, or about 3.3% of the total. With these pods ascending, there is no telling how much that number will rise. If you are thinking of starting or joining a pod, please do. Don't be dissuaded by the people who are trying to stop you. You have right on your side. Please check out the resources I have included in the chat box. I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Larry. Great presentation. If anybody has any questions for Larry, his information is in the chat. A comment that really came in just now during his chat is more of a comment than a question, but that she wished that she had known that there were so many options available. You know, when she was homeschooling her children, she had no idea of any of these options. And she's so thankful for this conference, for people like you, Larry, talking about pods, and for, you know, all the different options that we've talked about today.
Yeah, and
so
thank you, Mary. And yeah, just to that person, anybody else, there's a ton of information on the internet. As I said, I posted a few links in the chat room. But if you're on Facebook, just Google pandemic pods, and you'll get an eyeful. And most of these sites are very helpful, and they'll answer your questions. And I would urge any parent who has the wherewithal to do this to do it.
Yeah, one quick question is, any idea the approximate cost of a pod? Is there a range, or?
It depends. I mean, if you get a credentialed teacher, yeah, it's going to cost you. If you just have parents, individual parents doing it, it's free. I mean, maybe you have to pay the gas to take your kid to somebody a mile away, but basically there's no cost. unless you hire a professional, and then it depends on who, if you just hire a tutor, it won't be as much. If you hire a credentialed teacher, it will be more.
Great. So then again, we're seeing flexibility within even that, just so there's so much flexibility. Yes. So great. Thank you so much, Larry.
Thank you.
So next, we have a poetry contest winners that will be announced by Magda Gomez from Broadway Productions. Do we have Magda?
Hello, Mary.
Welcome.
Hello, everyone. So happy for being here. Thank you for inviting me. I'm representing Broadway Productions, where we combine art and education to work with the Hispanic community. We translate everything in Spanish, so that way we make sure we serve Hispanic Latino community. And yeah, this year we decided to celebrate National School Choice Week with a poetry contest in Spanish. So I'm going to announce the 3 winners, and I'm gonna switch to Spanish to make sure that our parents understand who the winners are. So here you go. Muchas gracias por invitarme. Estoy muy feliz de estar aquí en la Feria de Opciones Escolares de California. Estoy representando a Broadway Productions y este año nosotros hicimos un concurso de poesía en español para que todas las familias pudieran contarnos su historia de cómo a lo mejor sus hijos no estaban siendo exitosos en una escuela tradicional y los padres usando este derecho de poder encontrar una mejor educación para sus hijos, buscaron y buscaron y ahora están a lo mejor haciendo escuela en casa, están en una charter o están en una, haciendo escuela en línea. Así que los poemas fueron muy bonitos todos y nuestro jurado calificador ya decidió los 3 ganadores. Y estamos muy contentos, las historias fueron muy bonitas, muy inspiradoras. Nuestro jurado, a quien quiero mandar un saludo, fueron 5 miembros de jurado calificador, todos artistas con los que he trabajado ya por mucho tiempo. Les mando un saludo y muchísimas gracias por su tiempo, por su dedicación. Me dijeron que estuvo muy difícil llegar a solo 3 ganadores, pero aquí los tenemos. Así que ahí va el primero, que sería el tercer lugar. El tercer lugar es para, el nombre del poema es Mi hijo brilla como una estrella, de Gabriela Cruz, de Corona. ¡Bravo! El segundo lugar, el nombre del poema es Toda la vida es saber algo nuevo cada día. Y nos lo envió Viridiana Sánchez de Los Ángeles. ¡Bravo, bravo! Muchas gracias. Y el primer lugar es para ti, querida escuela, de Mónica López, de Los Ángeles también. Muchísimas felicidades. Muchas gracias a todos los que participaron y nos vemos el siguiente año en otra feria. Thank you so much for inviting me again.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the beautiful dance production earlier as well. We know that was from Broadway Productions as well. So
thank you. Yeah, it was great. All the families participated. That was great.
Yeah. Well, thank you. All right, so now we were going to have Cecilia Iglesias, the Parent Union founder, present. She has texted me that she is without internet, so would I just say a couple words about the Parent Union? So I'd be happy to do that. Cecilia founded the Parent Union back, I think it's about 5 or 6 years ago now, while she was a school board member. She was a district school board member, and she realized that the focus really wasn't on the children, that most of the focus was coming from the union, and it wasn't really student-based, it was more union-based. So she founded the Parent Union to fight for the children and really to have an organization to stand up for the children. So parentunion.org is part of the California Policy Center. We have parent union ambassadors all over the state. If you want to join one, a coalition that's already in existence, or if you want to be a parent union ambassador, we're always looking for new parent union ambassadors, even if it's in the same area of another one. But we have some parent union ambassadors doing some terrific work and really representing their local community with parent engagement and involvement. One of the things they do is they recruit candidates to run for school board. So they make sure that the trustees on the school board are really child-centered and education-centered. So that's what the Parent Union is about. Please go on parentunion.org and see what's on our website, I think you'll be very impressed with everything that you can do and that you can join, and how important it is. It was really formed to help parents prioritize their children and to promote school choice, as we've discussed today, that every child is different, and so that the parent union really supports that every family is different. I know a lot of us today, we heard, and myself, our children are very different. I had one that went to public, one that went to private. I wish I had known all these options myself. And so it's just wonderful to have places to go. So that is Ceci's. I don't know if anybody has any questions for Ceci. It looks like she's in the chat, how you can contact her. We also have Broadway Productions in the chat. And we also have a wealth of information and links from Larry in the chat. So I really want to thank everyone before we give our final door prizes, which are very, very exciting. We have $500 Amazon gift cards to give out. Please watch for the follow-up email. We'll be sharing the recording, and please share that recording with other groups of parents, any networks, coalitions that you have. It's really important. A lot of people could participate today or maybe didn't know about it. So if you can continue to share this information that's available with social media and with your networks, that would be great. Let's see. Yeah, that's really what I wanted to let you know is thank you so much. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for the speakers who participated. Thank you for the families that participated. Thank you for your great questions. If we missed any of your questions, I apologize, but please reach out on the links to any of the speakers directly. I know they'd be thrilled to answer your questions. You know, another question that came in late, and let me just respond, is it too late to get into a charter school right now for the 2021? And it's not. If you can find a local charter school, I see Collin waving his head, you know, there's charter schools around the state, I know in Orange County, that do have some capacity. So you just have to make some phone calls and look around and see what's available. So it's definitely not too late. It's a very flexible situation. You might have to unenroll from your traditional district school, but it's simple anyway. I'm sure whatever charter has capacity, that they would be more than happy to help you with that process. And the last question was also a very good question. During the pandemic, when we have districts that are closed, are some charters still open? And yes, they are, because again, like Collin explained, they are more flexible. And so they have found ways, you know, they can really pivot. They pivoted much quicker to distance learning, and they can pivot, you know, back into the classroom. And I know there's been some that have pivoted into the classroom, and maybe they had an outbreak or exposure. They went back to, you know, distance learning for the 10 or 12 days, and now they're back in the class. So there is a lot more flexibility. If you want your children in a classroom, it would make sense to look into some local charters or other options that you heard about today that are all just terrific options depending on your child's needs. And if there's no more questions for me, I would go to our last set of door prizes, the remaining 5 gift cards for $100. Congratulations, Josh. Congratulations, Candace. Congratulations, Kelly. Congratulations, Alex. And now for our very last $100 gift card. Congratulations, Marianne. Well, it looks like we're right on time, or it's 12:53, so hopefully we're leaving you wanting a little bit more. I don't see any last minute questions, so I will leave you with thank you so much. Thanks for attending and joining us today at the 6th Annual Parent Union School Choice Fair. Hopefully next year we will be in person, and maybe we'll even have a virtual capacity, because I think it's so great that we can include people from around the state. So we'll have to figure out how to do something that combines the virtual piece of it. Thank you, everyone.
With so many choices, it's tough to stay with one. Got way too many options just to have some fun. You can listen to the others, but they might not understand. Just put yourself in your shoes. It's time to take a stand.